So welcome. Appreciate you spending some time with us today. Today we've got Jon Shehan, head coach, Millersville University. Thanks for taking some time today.
Absolutely, Marty. Thanks for having me on.
So a little bit of strange days the last few weeks. Before we get into all the impact of the COVID-19 stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about Millersville?
Millersville is a D2 school, about 8,000 students. We're located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour west of Philadelphia, an hour east of Harrisburg, and an hour north of Baltimore. So we've got three metropolitan areas that are fairly decent recruiting bases for us, all within an hour.
Okay. You've been there for a little bit. Tell me about your background, your playing background, and how you became the coach there, and what you've done with the program there.
Sure, it's kind of a long story, but I've been running the program for 13 years now, so this has been season 13. I'll work backwards. I served 2 years as an assistant under Jeff Swore. Played a couple seasons in minor league baseball with the Braves. And then I didn't play a whole lot. I think I had 40 or 50 minor league at-bats over a couple of years. So I spent a lot of time in the bullpen as a catcher. Caught on Sundays. I played 4 years at Millersville. My dad worked 32 years at Millersville in food services. And my grandfather went to Millersville on my mom's side. So, and it's weird because she grew up 3.5 hours from here in New Jersey. So that it's just odd how things come together. But I've grown up on campus. I was a 5-year-old running around a baseball field and watching games, so it's home.
So obviously, season didn't go according to plans, but how did it end? How did you find out what was going on, and then how did that break with the team?
Everything was going in the right direction. Honestly, we were starting to play pretty well. We figured out our rotation and the middle of the lineup was hitting, which was kind of started off slow, to be honest. The end of the lineup was doing a great job picking those guys up, but everything was coming together. We noticed that Westchester had canceled their spring trip south for their girls softball team, and actually one of their players lives up the street, and I'm pretty good friends with her dad, who's my high school coach. So we got the inside scoop on that. That's kind of when we started to get a little nervous about what was happening around us, and at that point, I believe we played Lemoyne that weekend, and things started to unfold more and more. They started talking about the NCAA tournament on TV, and by Thursday afternoon, we had a pretty good idea that we weren't going to be able to leave for Lock Haven on Friday. So we had a practice. Usually our practices are pretty detailed and disciplined and organized, but Friday, Thursday, we took pitchers BP, we played home run derby. We knew it was probably our last chance to get on the field together. And the last pitch that I threw a BP, I looked over and saw our seniors hit the ground. One of our student assistants was on Twitter and saw the news from the NCAA. And immediate tears. We didn't get a chance to get in front of the guys before the news came out, which was devastating because we would have liked to broke that news to our guys. But after about 30 minutes of silence, we gathered in the dugout and had a tough conversation about life and how things aren't going to go our way the rest of our lives. And this is just a great opportunity to define themselves as a group. And what they've gone through might be the defining moment for their athletic careers and how it sets up the next 20 years for them. So it could be a positive in the long run.
So tell me the current status of you and the coaches. What are you guys currently doing now? Where are you guys at? What access do you have? What's happening?
Honestly, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what month it is. It hit 80 degrees last week, and I'm thinking, is it May 15th or June 1st or March 20th? I couldn't tell, but we're trying to kind of pick up the pieces. There's a lot of unknowns at this point. The NCAA rules for D2 seem to be ahead of D1 for once. So we have an idea that our guys are going to be, have eligibility in the senior class coming back, but there's a lot of questions as to, what's the roster going to look like. We had 11 seniors, so how many of those guys are actually going to come back and play? We don't even know when graduation is at this point. So it's a really tough thing to kind of piece together and plan. There are plenty of opportunities for us to work right now in terms of answering recruiting emails, watching videos. I mean, we can get into that a little later. We have a lot of fundraising that we need to catch up on, alumni contacts. We did a huge one-day give that brought in about $14,000. So I still have a backload of thank you notes to write. It's not that the work ever goes away, but we kind of work in college baseball in seasons, and you got recruiting season, you got fall season, and you kind of break over winter, and then you got in season, and then you're back to recruiting again. And we're not used to the change in the routine here. So it's just switching gears earlier than we thought.
So talk to me a little bit. I get a lot of questions now from seniors, juniors, freshmen, sophomores. Hey, what's currently implemented right now with the NCAA? What are the current rules for how you guys are operating right now, and how long will that current status last?
Well, there's two major things that they shut down. One is the accountable athletic related activities. We call that CARA in the coaching world. We are not allowed to spend any time with our players from an athletic standpoint. That would be video. If our shortstop wants to send us video of his swing, we're not supposed to respond. We're not supposed to give him coaching cues. That would include mandated workouts. If we told the guys, hey, this is mandatory, you have to get this done, whether that be a mental skill session or whether it be a weight room session. We're not allowed to mandate any workouts right now. So that's the first one. They can do anything optionally, but we can't force them to do anything. The second one is we have a dead period right now. April 15th is our cutoff for now, that we're not allowed to go on the road and recruit. We can't evaluate a player face to face. We can't have in-person contact face to face. We can't do any visits of any sort on campus. So that's the other big piece, which normally this is one of our biggest recruiting times of the year with the high school seasons going on.
So talk to so you guys are allowed to, from a communication standpoint, what are you guys allowed, given the NCAA eligibility rules, if guys are, past September, June 15th, that kind of stuff. But what are you guys allowed to do with potential recruits now, communication wise?
Right now, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over there. We can email, we can Skype, we can FaceTime, we can talk on the phone. We can do any type of direct messaging on social media. Like normal, we cannot respond to a tweet or an Instagram post, so those rules still apply. But the biggest changes are the face-to-face contact. We can't do any type of face-to-face or in-person evaluation. So if there's a facility that remains open, we couldn't drive out and watch somebody practice or work out there.
So from the player standpoint, they're still able to at any time, at any age group, email, call, text, any of those kind of things. You just can't respond to those who aren't eligible NCAA date wise, or guys that are. You can still respond to them, and right. all that avenue's open. Okay.
Correct.
So tell me about recruiting videos during this time period. How valuable are those, or what should guys be doing with videos since you guys can't do in person or come see guys play? How big's video in that process right now?
It's big. We had a list of about 45 guys on our board prior to leaving the office last week. I actually ran in and took a picture of it yesterday just so we could make sure we're on the same page with our staff. But for us, seeing video right now is probably the only thing we can do from an evaluation standpoint that helps us from the physical side. We are big on the high school game aspect of recruiting. We want to go out and see guys compete. We want to see guys, from a position player aspect, we'd like to see 4, 5, 6 games, of them having ABs. 4 or 5 at bats in a game is huge for us. So for those 45 guys that are already on our board, we've already identified that we want to see them physically play games. So we're kind of at a standstill with those guys outside of communication. But for the guys that we haven't seen, and we don't have any commitments for the 2021 class, for the guys we haven't seen that we don't know about, video is huge. We want to see how guys move. You can tell a lot from a video of a swing, of a delivery, or taking ground balls, running a 60, those type of things. But there are a lot of videos to go through, and we always appreciate when guys put 5 or 6 swings on, 5 or 6 pitches, A couple of different angles are always helpful. 60 times are fantastic if you can actually video the whole thing, which I know could be a challenge right now. But short and sweet is always good when we have so many to go through.
Sure. So if a player is interested in Millersville, what's the best way for them to reach out to get a hold of you guys, or who should they be trying to contact and how during this period?
Right now, it's a challenge. I know guys are panicking. I mean, I know there's a lot of kids, especially the 2020 class, that are still looking for a home. And unfortunately, we've been full since September, October in that class. But with the 2021s in our program, I think the best way to get a hold of us is email. This might be the best chance you have to reach out and get a reply really quick from our staff right now, just because of the amount of time we're on the computer and at home and not out on the field in the afternoon. So the office work is getting done at a very efficient pace. But at the same time, we would appreciate that you have patience with us in terms of, hey, we really don't know what the next steps are for you. And we don't know what our roster limits are going to be like. And we don't know what our scholarship situation is going to be like. And we don't even know what our needs are next week, let alone, a year or two from now. So I think building relationships, identifying guys that we would like to see play, and building some of those contacts, talking to high school coaches on character and makeup are the things that we can do right now that are going to help us with the 21 class. But I think it's important for guys to know that if they're uncommitted in 21 or 22, looking at the way the Division I world works, they need to be patient. They just need to know that we're all in a weird place right now, Division I included, and the draft is an unknown. And for us, if we have 2 or 3 guys that may get drafted, the Division I world probably has 6, 7, 8 guys on every roster that might get drafted. And not even knowing if there's going to be a draft is such a huge challenge for these guys. When, if I'm thinking as a Division I recruiting coordinator right now, I'm looking at juniors going, is this guy going to be here next year or not? Even those first rounders on their team that are certain draft picks, certain guys that are going to sign as juniors, there is no guarantee that those kids are going to be off that roster now. So I think there's going to be a major trickle-down effect here. And I think for the 2021 high school player, it's really important that those guys just be patient, don't hit the panic button, do what they can to control their workouts and being prepared. But at the same time, the recruiting will take care of itself. We'll get back on the horse. We all need players, and it's going to work itself out in the long run.
Do you know what the current time period is for the kind of the dead period that they've instituted? Do you know what the current limit is on that, or when they're going to reevaluate that?
Right now, it's April 15th. So, I'll be amazed if it doesn't get pushed back further, just knowing that a lot of high school seasons are getting canceled. But we'll see. I mean, the spread of the virus, thank the Lord, has been very slow in Pennsylvania so far. I can only speak for our state, but I know in a place like New York City, it's a whole different ballgame. So we're just going to have to kind of sit back and see. But April 15th right now is our go date. I would assume that if we're allowed to go out, there's going to be quite a few coaches who are hitting the road just because of boredom more than anything else.
So how's that part been? Being at home all the time, not going through that regimented schedule, BP, hey, infield. What's that like?
I wake up every day, I look at my wife, and I say it's Groundhog Day. I mean, it's been 10 days since we played baseball. It feels like it's been 2 months. It's been a challenge to get into a new routine. I have a 9 and 11-year-old that love baseball, so my wife's been telling her friends, that the kids are getting college level training, but we brought some of the toys home that we've been using with the college kids, Rapsodo and our bat sensors. Yeah. So they're getting a little bit more than what they ever asked for. But I've had a lot of fun getting my baseball fix in with the 2 boys, and we've been getting after it for about an hour and a half or 2 hours every day. So that's been great.
Any other further advice you have for high school guys that are out there during this time period?
And I think it's a whole new world. I think we're going to be answering questions about this time period for the next 5 years, at least in Division II. I started looking at our roster thinking, if we have guys that are undecided in the freshman class that got significant playing time this year as freshmen, I could see those guys sticking around for 5 years now, which is going to affect, not just the senior class of 2021s, but it could be affecting the 2026 class, 25 class, 24 class. So, it's going to be a tough time for a couple of years. Just be patient. The best thing they can do is be a good player. Don't worry about the recruiting process. Worry about making themselves a better player through their work ethic. You can't control the coaches. You can't control roster space. You can't control scholarships, but they can control their academic performance. They can control their work ethic and finding ways to get better in this challenging time. And when the smoke clears, the best players are going to have a place to play. And that's what they need to focus on right now.
Great. Jon Shehan, head coach, Millersville University. Appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Marty, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and hope you stay healthy and your family stays healthy and enjoy this time with them.
All right, great.